scholarship reconsideration.
I don't think they like the word negotiation at all.
No, they hate the word negotiation. They always avoid that, and they say, we don't negotiate scholarships. We sometimes reconsider scholarships.
Hello and welcome to episode 510 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. Let's jump into this, Nathan. We have on the agenda first the LSAT Buyers Club.
U.S. News law school rankings have self-reported average indebtedness included on the school's profiles. Demon team member Michael took that data and made this spreadsheet to compile, well, a bunch of statistics. And maybe, I don't know how much, Ben, you've looked at this, but maybe we should just go through it a bit together. It highlights how much 1 point of LSAT is worth, and it also shows which schools are bigger offenders in this scholarship game that we keep yelling about on the show. I'm gonna, for those of you who watch on video, I'm gonna try something new today. I'm gonna try to actually share my screen.
Great.
Cool. So if I'll just walk through the spreadsheet here. We have, this is U.S. News ranking. We have the name of the law school. We have their per year nominal tuition, times 3 is this column.
Yep. Okay.
We have fees times 3.
Okay.
And we add all that up and we get full price for 3 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Sorry, just to pause for a half second. I'm surprised by how different the fees can be for different schools. So for example, 3 years of fees at Penn is $17,000, almost $18,000. Whereas 3 years of fees at Chapman is $225. Like that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like how much do they? Because it's all fake anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's like tuition plus fees. So there is that new weird definition on the American Bar Association 509 reports, where if you give somebody every dollar of the tuition plus not quite every dollar of the fees, you then report them to the American Bar Association as more than half tuition. And so I believe that does provide an incentive for schools to, if they would like to not publicly show how many full tuition scholarships they give. I mean, I would guess that definition, like if you just think about the incentives, right? An economist would say, let's think through the incentives here. I would guess that what that's going to do is it's going to cause schools to increase their fees as opposed to increasing their tuition. Because if they increase their fees, they're allowed to just send letters to students saying, hey, we're offering you a full tuition scholarship. And they could even say, we're offering you a full tuition scholarship plus a stipend. But if that full tuition plus stipend doesn't cover every dollar of the required fees, then they're going to report that out to the American Bar Association as not a full tuition scholarship.
Yeah.
Which is just wild that they can offer it to a student one way and then tell the American Bar Association something different by complying with the American Bar Association's rule.
Totally. Yeah, so at Penn here, they could offer you a full tuition scholarship and still charge you full fees, $6,000 a year. Well, it's not a small chunk of change. That could be the actual value of your education.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, because the purpose of this, we haven't even gotten to the meat of it yet.
Yeah.
We have a column here for the 25th percentile grant. Then we have a column for the 25th percentile price. That's the price for 3 years minus the grant for 3 years. So using Penn as, just because it happens the way we've got the sheet sorted right now, Penn is on top.
Okay.
If you got their 25th percentile grant, so now there's people who get no grant at all. But of the people who get a grant,
Mm-hmm.
the 25th percentile grant, when subtracted from the full price, that's the tuition plus the fees times 3 minus the grant times 3,
Mm-hmm.
you end up paying $149,000 a year to go
Okay.
to Penn.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Here's what the 50th percentile grant gives you, $43,000 across 3 years. Not very much different, actually, from the 25th percentile grant.
Yep.
And that leaves you paying $113,000 over 3 years.
Yep.
Okay, keep scrolling over. The 75th percentile grant, we start getting into some real money here. They're going to give you over $25,000 a year. They're going to give you $76,000 over the course of 3 years, leaving you, this is the 1 year grant. My bad. This is the 1 year grant amount.
Yeah.
So it's actually $76,000 per year. And that means that you end up only paying, over the course of 3 years, you only end up paying $13,000 all in. Now, there's some, that's not going to be a precise science here, because like they raise the tuition every year and they might not raise your grant amount to cover the
So
tuition
it could be
increase.
higher.
But
Yeah.
yep. But just using the publicly available data that we have, we think that if you get one of the better grants that Penn offers, not to say the best grant, this is just the 75th percentile grant. So 25% of the class at Penn gets a better grant than this,
Yep.
right? But you end up only paying $13,000. Whereas, remember, the full price of this degree is $242,000 per year.
Yeah. Wait, can you go back really quick? So I see the
Sure.
75th percentile grant is close to 76,000.
Yep.
What is tuition per year?
That's over
Not
here.
3 years, but per year.
Per year, $75,000 tuition. So yeah, the grant is actually more than full tuition, but it's not more than full tuition and fees. So
yes, so if they can say it's less than full.
Absolutely. If you're getting the 75th percentile grant at Penn, which again, of all the people who are getting a grant, and if Michael's listening to this, we should add a column to this spreadsheet. What percent of people get a grant? Because that's important. We need to know how many people don't get any grant at all. We need to know how many people are getting a grant. We have all that information on the 509. We just haven't put it yet into this spreadsheet to help us do this analysis. If you're getting that 75th percentile grant at Penn, yeah, it's more than their full tuition per year, but it's not covering this $5,900 in fees.
Yep.
So they will report that on the American Bar Association 509 report as more than half.
Not full.
Which is such a big bucket, right? Like full means exactly to the dollar, full tuition plus full fees exactly. And then there's another bucket for more than full. But for the 75th percentile grant at Penn, they're going to just report that as a more than full tuition scholarship, when it is, for all like practical purposes, this is clearly a full tuition scholarship, right? You're only paying a total of $13,000 over 3 years.
Yeah.
Whereas the person who's paying full price is paying $241,000 per year. The last column on this spreadsheet is the difference between full price and the 75th percentile grant amount. And I'm not sure what we're going to call this, but I think some of the team has proposed calling it a greed index. And I like that because I think it has a double meaning, which is this the school being greedy? Maybe. I mean, they're giving people a damn near full ride. Some people are paying nothing and some people are paying a lot. And if you want to call it a greed index from that perspective, you can. We could also, in a way that would be more beneficial to our students and listeners who are going to presumably be applying to law school someday, we definitely encourage you to be greedy and to take advantage of this system. What do you think about all this? Any comments?
Yeah, a couple comments. One, in terms of the name, so this number, to clarify, is the full price minus the amount of money we see the 75th percentile grant recipients getting, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think we want most people to go to law school and be in the 75th percentile grant group
At that school. Yeah.
at that school.
Because why wouldn't you? I
Yeah.
mean, just you have a choice here. You're going to apply broadly. You're going to get all kinds of different offers in, right? If you apply to 30 of these, imagine if you apply to 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 of these schools, that's like you've got 30 different of these lines on the spreadsheet, and you're going to get different offers at different schools. But we want to just make you aware of the financing. Like, here's what other students are paying.
Yep.
So, would you like to pay wildly more than most people are paying?
Yep.
Would you like to pay about the same as most people are paying? Or would you like to pay less than people are paying? It's your choice. And maybe we shouldn't even maybe we should just leave it there. Like, you guys can pick. Right? I think it feels like we're constantly telling people, hey, our advice is that you would pay less.
Yeah.
But maybe all we really need to do is just show them these numbers and say, well, up to you.
And maybe this is going too far, but I'm inclined to call it the minimum discount.
Minimum discount. What do you mean?
It's the smallest discount you should be willing to accept for that school.
Like, are you getting their 75th percentile grant?
Are you getting it? If not,
Yeah.
then you're probably paying too much. Because everybody, we always say, hey, don't pay for law school. And then it's like, well, okay, paying something might make sense. And people always want to wonder, okay, well, how much? Well, I'm not saying this is how much you should accept, but don't accept a discount that's smaller than this.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull up the 509 from Penn. So they do give, that this is a school where, like, this is number 5 in the country, right? And in the current rankings.
Yep.
This is the kind of school where people sometimes make what might be a smart decision to pay significant amount of money because they're going to have a significant big law placement. And if you know that you want to practice big law in Philadelphia, Penn's probably the place for you.
Yeah.
They only give discounts, Ben, at Penn specifically. They only give discounts to 55% of the class, right? So 45% are getting no discount at all. Then 55% of the class are getting discounts of this magnitude.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I think that you and I would probably actually agree that if Penn is the best school you get into, boy, you really got to think twice about whether you're willing to pay that kind of money. But if you get into Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Chicago, whatever other schools are currently ranked higher than Penn, then yeah, you should be looking at that discount and going, hey, more than half the class gets some kind of a discount.
Yep.
What's my discount? And I know what those discounts are. Of the 55%, there are 25% of them who are getting at least a $229,000 discount off of this education. And if I'm going to go happily sit in your classroom and be part of the Penn community, I'm just not going to feel good about looking to my left, looking to my right, and feeling like I'm paying more money than all these other people are. Okay. Back to the agenda. Oh, by the way, the spreadsheet right now, Ben, is sorted by the biggest difference between the full price that someone would pay and that 75th percentile. You're calling it the minimum discount.
Yeah.
That's not the minimum discount they offer. That's the minimum discount we would, maybe propose that you would accept at a school like that.
Sure.
And so that's where the biggest delta is at Penn. That's the biggest difference between the haves and the have-nots happens at Penn.
Wow.
Right?
Yep.
It's interesting, though, that second on the list is, I would imagine that they would cluster around, like, if Penn is at the top of the list, I would expect, something that's ranked. I would expect Duke up there. I would expect Michigan, or like some, like a reasonable competitor school for Penn. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
The second on this list is number 63 ranked St. John's University, uh, which offers a 50th percentile grant amount of $70,000, which is also their 75th percentile grant amount. And we did call and confirm that with them. That's not impossible, because all it just means is there's a whole bunch of people who are getting the exact same grant.
So that means everyone above the 50th is also above the 75th.
At or above, but yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. And that results in a 211, I guess, $211,000 discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots at St. John's. Now, there are people who have it even better than that, presumably.
Mhm.
Right. Well, we don't know really, because
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not required to report that information. I mean,
Yep.
I think that, boy, if I was in charge of the ABA, you got to make them report in deciles, don't you? Like, just, let's really open the kimono and see what the financing looks like. If you're trying to make it fair for people, then let's
Mhm.
see it.
Mhm.
And I also might suggest that we start reporting out average indebtedness by things like race, socioeconomic status, because things we've complained about in the past, that we think that poorer, browner people end up borrowing more for worse outcomes.
Yep.
Uh, so lots of work to be done here. I am curious, actually. I'm going to look it up real quick over on the scholarship estimator, which is a great tool, lsatdemon.com/scholarships. I
Mhm.
just want to see St. John's. So they do offer 80% of the class gets a discount,
Mhm.
right? So if you're at St. John's getting no discount at all, yeah, I mean, you're paying their full freight of $222,000 a year.
Mhm.
There's only 20% of the class who are paying that much. Meanwhile, there are the 50th percentile grant and the 75th percentile grant who are paying a total of $11,900, let's call it $12,000 total for 3 years to go to St. John's. And that's now, think about that, Ben. So that's at least 40% of the class, right? Because
Yeah.
80% of the class gets grants. And the
Wow.
50th percentile pays only
Wow.
$12,000 a year. So there's a $210,000 difference between the 40% at least of the class who are at their 50th percentile and the unfortunate rest of the class that are just like sponsoring the entire endeavor.
Here's another ratio we could consider adding to the sheet and
Yep.
sorting by, and that is I took the $222,000 that it costs to go to St. John's, and I divided that by the 12,000 that the 75th and really 50th percentiles pay, and I get 18.5. So that
Yeah.
means that the people who aren't getting those scholarships are paying 18 to 19 times more. That's insane. Can you imagine going to, I don't know, anywhere, buying some milk and someone's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, well, I paid $1, but I can see you're about to
Yeah.
check out and pay $18."
Yeah. Well, the ratio is infinite also for the people who are really there on actual full rides, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's some people who pay zero or even get paid.
Mhm.
And let me just take a quick peek. I wonder if St. John's is one of those schools. Yeah. So, and boy, they really look like they're playing the game, Ben. Guess how many full tuition and more than full tuition scholarships St. John's offers, given what we've already talked about with the reporting and the way that you might game it.
Yeah. Um
I'm just going to tell you it's zero.
20. Oh,
No,
0.
it's
Oh,
zero.
so no one is being reported as this.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So it just instead their median grant, which by the way, again, 80% of the class gets a grant.
Mhm.
The median grant is damn near full ride, but not quite close to not quite enough that they have to report it as full ride. Look, their fees are $4,500 a year.
Mhm.
it it's just yeah, they're, you know, it almost seems like they're very aware of all of this.
Yeah.
And they're purposely getting up to that edge where they're like, "Oh no, we don't," they reported out to the world, the American Bar Association at least, as, "Oh no, we don't offer full tuition scholarships. No, no. We don't offer stipends? No, no. We don't offer full tuition scholarships. We don't offer stipends."
Yep.
But 40% of the class is paying virtually nothing. Okay. There were some other examples that I had pulled out. I don't know why I thought that this was so interesting.
Mm.
But yeah, what are these? I don't know. I don't even remember why I had pulled them out. I think I was just trying to show what happens at representative schools.
Sure.
But USC is ranked 30th on the price difference.
Mm.
Oh, there they are. Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, that is like ranked roughly 30th on this spreadsheet. Their full price is $246,000 a year. Their 75th percentile grant price is $105,000 a year. Their 25th percentile LSAT is 165. Their 75th percentile LSAT is 170. So 5-point difference between their 25th percentile LSAT and their 75th percentile LSAT.
Yep.
And if you do the math on that, presumably the 25th percentile on LSAT is getting no grant at all. We're holding GPA constant, of course, in this assessment.
Yep.
But if the 75th percentile LSAT is getting their 75th percentile grant, the team worked out the math here that it's a $141,000 difference. That's here on the spreadsheet. And that works out to $28,000 per LSAT point.
Yeah. When you move from that 165 to 170.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, that's not painting the complete picture because again, GPA is a thing and they are, you're also going to want, they're interested in those two numbers largely when they figure out who they're going to give grants to and who they're not going to give grants to.
But wait,
I think maybe
go through these other two schools because you got Florida and then you got your alma mater, UC Law, San Francisco, formerly Hastings. And the numbers are a little different, but they're not that much different. So essentially what happens here is when you bring your LSAT score up to the 25th percentile of a school, moving your LSAT from the 25th percentile up to the 75th percentile is a lot more than 10,000 per point. Maybe you're looking at anywhere from 15 to 30.
Yeah, holding GPA constant, we're calculating $19,000 per point at Florida. Holding GPA constant, we're calculating $25,000 per point at my alma mater, UC Law SF. Also, our guest last week, Michael Friedman's alma mater, UC Law SF. But the difference between the haves and the have-nots is stark at most schools.
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at the bottom of this list as well, where it's not every school is playing the game. We do see here a cluster of very low ranked schools at the bottom of the list.
Yep.
Which might mean that the schools that don't play the game don't attract high LSAT and then therefore don't climb the rankings.
Yeah.
Right? Like the schools are kind of getting what they pay for or the poor students who don't get scholarships are giving the school what they are paying for. The students are paying for it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen all three of the Puerto Rico schools are at the bottom of the list. So there's not a big difference at the Puerto Rico schools. And then you've got the likes of Texas Southern University, North Texas, North Dakota. CUNY is interesting. They're not playing that game, or they're not playing it nearly to the extent, right? The difference at CUNY is only $24,000 over 3 years. The difference between the people who get their 75th percentile grant and the people who get their who pay full price is only $24,000 at that school.
Yeah, you could almost think of this as like a disparity index, right? The disparity at CUNY is radically smaller than the
Yes.
disparity elsewhere.
Yes. We think, I mean, I think anyway, I don't want to speak too much for you, Ben, but we've been doing this for a long time, and I think I know where you land on this issue. We think, because look, also, Ben, the tuitions are much lower at these schools.
Yeah.
So the schools that have lower disparity
Mm-hmm.
have lower overall tuition. No shit. Because instead of having some people pay for the education of 2 or 3 or 4 other students, you know, and because that's what's going on, right? They have to have this outrageously high nominal tuition, just hoping that some people will pay it.
Wait,
so that they can give all the grants to all the other students.
You're saying 2 or 3 or 4 other students, which sounds ridiculous, but technically the ratio was 18 at Penn. So are you, in theory, paying for 18 other students, or am I thinking about that incorrectly?
Or infinite other students if you're getting an offer that's even better than their 75th percentile.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're actually getting a stipend, which we know stipends do exist at some schools.
Yeah.
Well, wait, does that make the ratio infinite? Anyway.
Yeah.
We're not journalists.
You're paying for a
right?
lot of other people.
Our job is to just try to shine some light on all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it does seem to me that this model that these schools are providing is it's a much more just idea than the model that's being provided by most other schools, actually.
We're not saying that it's a good deal. It might be a bad deal, but it's still like everyone within the class is being treated much more similarly than they are at Penn, which is a wild difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And most schools, to be clear, most schools are doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I had called out that I thought was going to be on the agenda that's not, but I just remembered it. Here we're looking at like the middle of the chart. Okay, so schools that are ranked right around the middle of this disparity index, if that's what we're going to call it, or disparity. It's not an index; it's a disparity number, I guess. But maybe that's an index. I don't know. But there are many, many schools. Right, we got 200 schools on the list, roughly. Here we're looking at the schools that are ranked right around the middle of that list, and the discrepancy is about $100,000. So most schools are doing this. This is not an uncommon thing. This is what it looks like. This is what law school admissions looks like in 2025 in the United States.
Yep.
To be clear, I wish we had Canadian schools on this list. Canadian schools just don't report any of this information, but our understanding is that Canadian schools tend to charge most people the same price. Like if you can get in, here's what it costs.
Yep.
And that just seems like a much more fair model. Like who would design this? There's that reading comprehension passage about John Rawls and like theory of justice and all that. And what's the veil of
the veil of ignorance? Yeah, if you don't know who you're going to be in the outcome, you design a game in which you're likely to be more fairly treated than if you know the outcome. Yeah,
right. And I think all of our students are sharp enough that they would be able to acknowledge that. Like, boy, this system. If I didn't have the savvy to take advantage of the system, I would never design a system like this because I could end up getting royally screwed, and no one wants to get royally screwed. And everybody knows that that's just not a fair way to run things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the kind of crazy irony of what we do, Ben, is that we give our students this information so that they can then go like they pierce the veil of ignorance and they're able to see, oh shit, wow, this system is really stacked in favor of the people who know this information, who can then choose wisely whether or not to pay for law school at all. There's been a request, Ben, from the team to make this part of our website. It
Hmm.
would be awesome to have this as a tool. I know that dev resources are scarce and being pulled in a million different directions, but it would be awesome to figure out how to make this something that we could share with the world. For now, it's just a Google sheet that we have control of, but it'd be, we'll work on it to try to
Yeah.
make this public.
Well, we can certainly link to it right now, right? lsat.link/greedy or disparity or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. lsat.link/disparity. I think that that's probably pretty good. And we'll make that last column N, we'll just call that disparity. Matter of fact, I'll rename it right now. That should just be in a pop-up text, that last little bit there. But I'm sure Michael will help clean that up, and we'll make that public. Again, lsat.link/disparity if you want to get read-only access to play around with this spreadsheet and see what the different outcomes are at the different schools. Just another way of looking at this ABA data.
Great. Okay, going on to item number 2, we have scholarship renegotiations.
Okay, I don't think we should spend too much time on this. This is some intelligence that we got from a presentation of pre-law advisors.
Yep.
And it's the question was basically, or not pre-law. Well, yeah, it was the schools talking to pre-law advisors, telling them, "Hey, here's how we deal with scholarship renegotiations."
Wait, we should let's clarify here. I don't think this title is correct. Scholarship, it's not scholarship. They don't call it scholarship renegotiations. They call it scholarship reconsiderations.
Scholarship reconsiderations.
I don't think they like the word negotiation at all.
No, they hate the word negotiation. They always avoid that, and they say, we don't negotiate scholarships. We sometimes reconsider scholarships. Or we
That's
don't.
different.
Which also is true, that they sometimes, they might just never reconsider scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to do it unless you ask them to. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But do you want to just maybe read through some of what we've learned? We've got information from UConn, UVA, Northeastern, Cornell.
Yeah, so UConn apparently says that they have, quote, a pool of money, which is a little bit of a strange concept because these are discounts, that is released to them later. But they say that they don't really reconsider scholarships that much. It's hard to know how much of that is true. Of course, schools want to generally keep their reconsiderations or any sort of scholarships that they offer secret, which is why they don't offer full tuition scholarships plus fees. Otherwise, they'd have to report that. If the offer is already generous, they claim that increasing it is unlikely. They also have.
Well, it's just that, yes, this is their claim.
Yeah.
Right. This is what the admissions office says to pre-law advisors.
Yep.
But the truth is that UConn offers 95% of their students a discount.
Wow.
Right. So this is rampant price discrimination. They are absolutely charging everybody a different price. And if they really want you,
So you're looking at the estimator right now and you're going to the roll call for UConn. Is that right?
Yep.
Do you want to share your screen?
I can absolutely do that.
Cool. So interesting. Look at those numbers. Okay, so 5% of students in the bottom right corner there are paying full tuition. You said 95 don't.
These guys here.
Yep. And UConn is claiming that they don't reconsider much, but boy, they do give out a lot of scholarships.
Oh, almost everyone in the school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're looking at 20 total students in the entire school who are getting no discount at all. Everyone else, hundreds of students, are getting discounts that apparently at UConn go all the way up to and include a stipend.
Yeah.
So some people are getting paid to go there. There's 4 of those. 20 people are paying full price. Everybody in between, 363 people are getting more than 50% discount or less than 50% discount, but they're not paying full price.
Yeah.
And so then, it's kind of ironic because it's like you know, maybe I believe them that they don't reconsider the offer,
Sure.
but the fact that they give so many scholarships to so many students kind of tells a different story.
Yeah.
What's next on the list?
UVA.
Okay, so UVA is number 4 ranked by US News. I'm looking at the scholarship estimator now. Do you still see that screen share, Ben?
I do. Yep.
Okay, great. So if we click on UVA here, we see our tuition roll call.
Yep.
And yeah, so UVA, yeah, just a few people, not enough to even be represented here on our 1 out of 100
Mm-hmm.
deal, because UVA is a huge school. But there are, a few people getting a stipend. There are 47 people, that's 5% of the class, who are getting full tuition plus all of the required fees.
Yep.
There are because UVA is such a good school, they are actually able to attract people at their full price.
Yeah.
Right. So, but still, it's only 34% of the of the class at UVA
Yeah.
that's paying full price. And that means that there is 66% of the class that's getting some kind of a discount. What do they say about whether they reconsider scholarships?
Okay, so they say that they have a scholarship reconsideration form that you can fill out, but they claim that they don't actually do reconsiderations. Their explanation is that the form is just there to give students the peace of mind that they asked. They have observed that many students claim they will only commit with a better scholarship, but then when the scholarships are not increased, the students still come. Okay.
It's just so funny. I'm negotiating right now. I'm trying to buy a car for my wife.
Yeah.
And I've been using ChatGPT to help me just draft like negotiations emails.
Yeah.
It's awesome, by the way, to use ChatGPT for this purpose, because it
Yeah.
helps you. It's like ChatGPT is like amoral, and it just doesn't worry about pissing people off. It'll change its
Yeah.
tone if you want it to change its tone, but
Yeah.
it starts out as like it's on your side and it's a tough negotiator and it's just gonna like tell them what's up. But that sort of a thing of like, well, we've learned over time. Well, I'm sure the car dealer has too.
Yeah.
You ask them for a lower price. What do they come back with? They come back with, well, I don't know. I could even read you the I I was like just taking their responses and feeding it into ChatGPT.
Mm.
So it's like their response was, "Hi Nathan, I'm working on trying to get another senior manager's approval on the possibility of revising the quote. The concerned personnel is off today. Could you wait till tomorrow, or do you need to make a decision today?" I fed
that's
that
an
in.
obvious, like they're
So
trying
obvious,
to see
right?
how desperate, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I fed it into ChatGPT. Classic stall tactic, but also a good sign. They're taking you seriously and trying to keep you warm. And then it's quote, manager's approval equals we're debating how much to give up and whether you're bluffing.
Yeah.
They're buying time to figure out their floor or hoping you'll blink first. It like proposed an email to send, and I said, well, do you think I should wait? ChatGPT, of course, because it glazes, right? This is the 4.0 model of ChatGPT, and no matter what you tell it, it tells you that you're a genius. So GPT responds. I said, should I respond right away or should I stall myself? I'm really in no hurry to buy.
Yeah.
GPT says, great instinct. And yes, stalling is a power move right now.
What setting do you have it on, man?
I don't know.
Make me feel better.
No, that's default. 4.0 especially has had like problems with glazing, as it's called, where they just like tell you you're the shit no matter what you say, no matter how psycho you are. They just tell you you're a genius. It's problematic. But anyway, why you should wait. You've already stated your number. They're trying to regain control of the timeline. Don't let them. Delaying your reply signals that you're not emotionally invested. You're likely talking to other dealers, parentheses, whether you are or not. You're not going to chase or overpay. Dealers hate silence. It makes them wonder if they're about to lose the sale.
Yeah.
Is that awesome?
That is awesome. And it's funny too that they call it revising They don't want to call it negotiating either.
No, they
We're revising the price, and here
exactly.
schools are reconsidering the scholarship offer.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Should we keep going down this list and talk more about how the schools are, because all they're doing, right? This is them negotiating via the third party of the pre-law advisors, right? This is the
100%.
schools.
If they can convince other people that they don't reconsider scholarships, wow, that's even more powerful, because some third party is going to come in and say, "Oh yeah, they don't actually." I've heard them, and I've seen a lot of students try to reconsider or negotiate scholarships,
Right.
and they just don't do it.
And
so
we've
now you've
learned
already won the battle because the person believes that the game is over before it's
totally.
even started. Yeah.
And we've learned over the years that pre-law advisors at schools know far less than we do about this game. Like, you could talk
Yeah.
about 509 reports to pre-law advisors and they've never even heard of it before. They have no
Mhm.
idea. Pre-law
Yeah.
advisors don't know about the scholarship game. They have no idea about this whole financing issue. And so, I mean, that might be their first day on the job, and they're probably not a full-time pre-law advisor. They're probably just like, well, I work in the English department and I also give advice to the, like they give advice like, well, you should really only take the LSAT once. Or like, got to be really careful about retaking. Oh yeah, you should cancel your score if you think you did work. They just give such terrible, we know that the advice is terrible in a million other ways. So this is this is like the foxes, the schools, giving advice to the roosters, if those are the pre-law advisors. Like, oh, here's how you should guard the hen house.
Yeah.
Like, here's how you should be communicating these issues to your students.
Well, and the roosters are going to the foxes and literally asking, right? This
Yeah.
would be like you going to the dealer and saying, "Well, look, this is how much money I have.
Yeah.
I need a car pretty soon, because the
You'll
car we
take
have is
care of
not
me,
good."
won't you?
Yeah.
I
What do you
really
advise?
need this
Like, I
car.
don't know what to do, and I
My
need
wife's
help.
seatbelt doesn't work anymore, and the reason why, like, it literally does. Like, her seatbelt started like not working.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it clicks in and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
you
that's
are on
not
the
cool.
timeline.
Yeah, I want to buy a fucking car, but I'm not going to tell them that. Like, imagine if I rolled into the dealership, I was like, "Yeah, oh man,
We
the
need it
seatbelt doesn't
today."
work anymore. I'm really worried about my wife."
They'd be like, "Oh," and they'd be so sweet about it too, right? They'd be like,
Oh.
yeah, we can help you out with that. I've been thinking about your budget, and I got something for you, because
Yeah.
it's really
It's a
20.
special deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a special deal. I can get you. I mean, because I understand your situation, and
We don't
I've been
normally
there.
do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to get special approval from the manager, but they said that I could
told
give
them your
you
situation.
yeah. One thing we could do is these all-weather mats. You probably don't really need those, right? So that we could take $595 off the price of this, however much vehicle. We could take
Yeah.
$595 off by taking those all-weather mats out.
But I'll let you have them anyways. I'll just include it.
I'll just throw them in because I know your situation.
Yeah.
But we do need to do that today.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's only one of these cars in the whole state.
And so a bunch of people have been like, I just talked to some guy this morning. He was looking at it too. And yeah, it's
Fucking scammers, dude. They're like, oh, this is a custom color. Yeah. So the reason why the price is as high as it is because this color actually is a $7,500 premium over the whatever. You look around the lot, there's like 4 of them.
yeah.
They don't even have the normal colors. They only have the custom colors. Like, fuck off. Just scammers. Okay, anyway.
Well, your custom colors are just like clinics, right? Like, oh, we have this clinic and it's the only place you can do this clinic.
Right.
Anyway.
Totally. Yeah. That's why, our prices, yeah, I know it's high. The tuitions are high, but that's because of, these, we have things on our campus that you just won't find anywhere else.
So yeah, we have 2 more schools here. We have
Great.
Northeastern. They say they have no reconsideration and no
Okay.
process for it. Again, just imagine that you're talking to a car dealer. What would they say? Cornell says that they allow students to do 1 reconsideration if there's a strong rationale, like a better offer from a higher ranked school where cost of living is also higher. They might look more closely at that student.
I want to just take a real quick look here. I've pulled up the roll call for Northeastern. It does seem
Yeah.
like there's a glitch on their 509 reports. This is really common that the numbers don't really add up
Yeah.
because we're seeing here negative 44 people in the class. Not only do they give discounts to everybody, but they give
Oh my
discounts to
gosh.
people who apparently aren't even enrolled.
What? Oh, weird. Yeah.
Who
Okay.
knows what's going on there? But that's a school where we, as far as we know, literally no one pays full price at Northeastern. And then what was the other one? Cornell.
Cornell. Yeah.
So at Cornell, you're looking at, yeah, it's a higher ranked school, so they are able to attract some people who pay full tuition, but not very
Yeah.
many. Not very many. And the 12% who are really not savvy, who
Hmm.
are just like, yep, I only applied to Cornell. Or, well, yep, I mean, that's my local school. I'm only going to go there. Or I've dreamed of going to Cornell since I was a baby. And I applied at the last minute. They let me in. I shelled out full price. Basically, the schools are going to tell you that they don't want to, they're not proud of this, right? They try to disguise this. They make
Hmm.
individual scholarship offers to almost everyone while pretending that they don't.
It's funny because we've talked before about how visiting schools can be problematic because they're just so good at selling themselves, right? And
Yep.
you show up at school and they try to get you focused on all sorts of things that don't actually matter. Oh, look at this beautiful building. Look at this beautiful library. There's another problem, and that is when you show up in person, I'm sure you're just vomiting information.
Yep.
They're like, oh, by the way, so and so said this. Sounds like they're only applying here. Oh, good to know.
Yeah, totally. This guy's wife was beating him up about like, honey, why haven't you bought me a new car? My seatbelt's broken. This guy's gonna get a divorce if he doesn't buy a new car like now.
Yeah.
We're gonna stick it to this guy. I mean, that's not actually what was going on at all, but
Yeah.
you could imagine a situation, right, where you just accidentally signal to them your willingness to pay. Yeah, we don't even advise people to visit schools.
Yeah.
We advise you to apply broadly, see what kinds of offers come in. And then before you like pull the final trigger, if you
Mhm.
want to go do some visits, great. But
Yeah.
there's no reason at all to go to these admitted students weekends just to like before you've even settled on a price. I think that information, you are likely to vomit information, and that information is more valuable to them than it is to you.
Yeah.
Right? You're putting them at a disadvantage by any information you give them, unless you like purposely feed them misinformation, which you
Yeah.
probably could do actually.
You could. One last story here. It's from Walter Isaacson's book about Elon Musk. When SpaceX was trying to get a launching place in Texas, or a place to build rockets and launch them,
Yeah.
they went to one site that some guy had that had previously, I think, been a launch site for another company a long time ago that had gone defunct. And when they were walking around this land in Texas, one of Elon Musk's, I don't know, rocket designers or engineers just couldn't stop talking about how great this place would be. Oh, look, this is great. This is perfect. This look at, and Elon pulled him to the side. He said, "You're making the price more expensive, so shut up."
Yeah. He maybe needs to take some of that advice himself.
Yeah.
Because that dude has been going off the rails. But yeah, that's great. I did read that book. I recommend it, even though it was a bit of ass kissy to Elon.
Yeah. Well, someone who's
Um,
going to write a book about Elon probably likes Elon. Yeah.
Someone that Elon is going to give access to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Mhm.
plenty of people who would like to write plenty of books about Elon. It's
Mhm.
just that Elon's not going to invite him on the private jet to, have time
Tell
with him.
his story. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Speaking of renegotiating deals, our new book, the LSAT is easy. We
Mm.
launched it at $6.27, which was literally the cheapest that Jeffrey Bezos would allow us to sell it on his website.
Jeffrey. Yeah. Okay.
But Jeff Bezos, like Darth Vader, has altered the deal. They have lowered their royalty rate on books that are less than $10, which I get it. Like I mean, it's kind of amazing, right? That for people who have Amazon Prime, they're going to print and ship the book for $6.27
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
in.
That's
I mean, that's
wild.
fucking
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they lowered the royalty rate for books that are priced less than $10.
Mm.
Our royalty was already set at 0.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're lowering the royalty rate on these books, it means that starting on June 10th, Jeff Bezos is going to raise the price of our book to $7.52.
Okay.
So our royalty will remain 0, and we hope you'll check out the book. It's got about 30 years worth of combined LSAT wisdom in there between me and Ben, and a lot of great work from our whole team at LSAT Team In.
Yeah.
So we hope you'll pick up the book, and we've been telling you that it's $6.27, but Bezos said, yeah, sorry, I'm losing money doing that. he's raised the price to $7.52.
Okay.
What's this next item on the agenda? You want to read it? It's an email from someone that we're going to call Goldbug Bobby. Actually, I think Goldbug Bob actually wrote that. Goldbug Bob. And the subject is last call for Uncle Sam's wallet.
Hi, gents. Look like the Trump crew wants to hit pause on all student visa interviews while they gear up for social media deep dives.
I have heard of this. Have you heard about this news?
No.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're basically, because Trump has this like war against Harvard and other what he sees as elite. He thinks they're too woke, basically. Yeah. And he's all up their ass about DEI and everything. And so one thing that he has done is declared whether this is going to actually take effect or not, because the courts, step in and try to stop him. But he has declared that they're just not issuing new student visas for schools. And that would be a big fucking deal for schools where, a third of their student population is foreign students. Those are also the people in the undergrad context. Those are the people who tend to pay more. So the schools, of course, are not happy about this at all. One of the things that they have said they're going to do is they're going to pause all student visa, and then they're going to start going in and like really investigating the social media presence of the applicants, because they try to frame all this in like Homeland Security terms. Like it's like, oh, well, because we're worried that these people are terrorists. That's why we're doing it. Everything is about terrorism. Anyway, that's what Goldbug Bobby is talking about.
Okay. International applicants may be out of the game for a while, Bobby writes, which means schools will be scrambling to fill those seats. Now stack that with the Grad Plus kill switch. Okay, so Grad Plus loans are loans that parents can take out with their kids to help pay for higher education. Apparently is that getting killed or cut or something?
So that one I don't know much about, but apparently they're going to, boy, that sounds actually like kind of a good idea, right? We've been yelling for a long time that like, hey, these schools are getting out of line because they have the easy access to money.
Yeah.
It's like you drop an ice cream sandwich on the forest floor. It's like, well, of course a bunch of bugs and critters and shit are going to be attracted to it. It's like there's a free source of calories, right?
Lots of calories. Yeah, cheap calories.
Yeah.
So weird. Okay, so apparently the Grad Plus program is being cut back to some degree, and there's a new $200,000 student loan lifetime cap.
Wow. So
also seems sensible. Jesus, it should probably be smaller than that, but
in light of what we just talked about, there are some law schools that by themselves will put you way over $200,000 in student loans.
Not to mention your undergrad loans. Yeah.
No, if that's a lifetime cap, law school's only 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, this does seem like if all those policies were implemented, it seems like very bad news for the schools.
Yep. So Bobby continues, if the big, beautiful bill, capitalized, thank you, Bobby, goes through.
Trump case, yeah.
Yeah. Next year might be the last real shot to grab significant federal funding for a law degree. After that, no Grad Plus, no borrowing past the cap, no blank checks, and a whole lot more gatekeeping from private lenders. Put it all together, and the 2025-2026 year is shaping up to be a blowout cycle. Schools will want numbers. Applicants will want in before the rules change. International students might scramble to get in before the door is fully shut. The flood's coming. What's your take? Smart squeeze or bureaucratic meat grinder? Is shutting down the Grad Plus option a necessary evil? Praise the demon, Gold Bug Bob. So wait, how many kids actually use Grad Plus though?
Grad Plus, I have no idea. I do know that plus loans tend to be part of like the standard package for undergrad, don't they?
They do for undergrad. So that must be the distinction, right? You have a plus loan, which you need to have your parents cosign or a parent cosign to take advantage of. Grad Plus, though, I don't think requires a parent. So that's probably where people are getting all the money.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, there are a whole lot of high-priced, low-value, master's programs out there. We got students all the time who are talking to us about some master's degree that they're doing before law school, and it's like, holy shit, how much debt are you trying to rack up? Apparently, there's going to be some limitations placed on that. I don't know that anybody gives a shit about my political opinions. I'm really only an expert in the law school part of things. But it does seem to me that if you put some of these limits in place, schools might have to kind of rationalize their tuitions where they start charging everybody more like the same price.
That's the only way to cover the cost if they want to keep getting that same revenue, because they're not going to be able to squeeze some students so dramatically. Yeah, it seems like a good call.
And the reason why the schools are doing that is because they can, and because they're competing against one another to try to climb the rankings, right?
So
a
policy
if you don't
change
do
like
it, this
you're
exactly. No, I mean, we just saw that, right? The schools that don't do it tend to be lower ranked schools. So you can climb the rankings by buying high LSAT, high GPA, by giving these huge discounts, but that requires you to then charge other people, maybe enough money that they break this $200,000 cap or whatever. And so this type of thing does seem like, well, if you did it as a broad policy, then it applies to everybody. And then now there's a new normal, and you can't have these situations where some people are getting just a total coast, or where 95% of the class is getting these huge discounts and 5% are going into a lifetime of debt. Well, maybe you wouldn't be able to do that if you just put a cap on the debt.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to. I think the schools are going to immediately just cry poor, right? Oh, well, this will cut off access. This will make it impossible for us to do what we do. At least in the law school context, I don't really think so. I think that you could just like charge a more normal tuition and just stop giving everybody all these discounts.
Totally. And crying access is so, it's so misleading because okay, some folks won't be able to get as many loans as they did before, but they're not giving people these loans is bad, not good.
No, it's not good for them. No, it is bad for those students. And they're always going to say, oh, access to justice, access to this necessary education. But what they're really doing is trying to give themselves access to customers and give themselves access to dollars.
Yeah. Do you want to go through this CNBC article, some bullet points here about the big, beautiful bill?
I guess this is a summary of the... So it says Trump's big, beautiful bill could mean 4 major changes for student loan borrowers: fewer repayment plans with a new income-based option. The repayment assistance plan, or RAP, will replace the currently available income-driven plans, except for the income-based repayment plan. On RAP, borrowers' monthly bill would be between 1% and 10% of their income, depending on how much they earn. Borrowers can have any remaining debt forgiven after 30 years. That's a change. So it used to be 10 years, or I guess there are multiple different programs that have different stipulations, but 30 years, 360 monthly on-time payments.
Wow.
Yeah, it does say here that that's currently 10 years, and now they're going to just triple that to 30 years to say, yep, as long as you're willing to be a debt slave to us, not to mention we could always just change the policy anytime in the future. Yeah,
So
put new
wait 30
restrictions
years,
on
hold
it.
your breath for 30 years. Good luck.
And
Yeah.
then we could just change it however we want to change it, like Darth Vader,
Mm-hmm.
down the line. Um, Yikes. New borrowing limits, it says. Undergraduates will have a borrowing cap of $50,000. That to me seems like an excellent idea.
It does. Yep.
Just, hey, what value do you expect to get here? And the fact that rich kids can afford to pay more, or that rich kids do have the money to pay these tuitions, I just don't think that that should be used as an excuse in the name of access and justice and all that. It doesn't seem like that should be used as an excuse to let people rack up $200,000 for a bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of seems sensible to me. There could be unintended consequences, I suppose, but there have been dramatic unintended consequences of the existing regime.
System. Yeah. Well, it seems like a cap. What it forces the schools to do is get money from other places. So that, like you're saying, it seems like, we don't know for sure, but the outcome is going to be a more normalization of pricing.
One of the places that they could get the money from is stop giving full rides to rich kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know that rich kids do better on the tests. We know that rich kids do better in high school. So what they do is they take the high school GPAs and the high school test scores, and they end up giving scholarships based on GPAs and test scores to who? Well, to probably richer, whiter kids.
Yep.
And instead, because they're fighting for rankings at the undergrad level. And instead, if you just said, okay, well, that's fine. Like, because this doesn't even prohibit that. It just says that's fine, but you can't soak these other people
as much.
Annually, it says, this is all, by the way, from this CNBC story. We'll link to it in the show notes. I'm not vouching for any of the facts here. I'm just saying this is what that article apparently says. Annually, students will have a cap on federal loans equal to the national median cost for their program or similar fields of study.
So you can't get, that's another cap, right? So it just prevents the school from getting a lot of money, at least in one single year.
Graduate borrowers will have a cap of $100,000 or $150,000 for professional programs, including medicine. There is currently no limit. So this would apply apparently to law school. I don't know where it's 100 or 150. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the distinction?
Yeah. And the proposal
I'm sure the
also
lawyer's got
eliminates
150 in there.
Yeah. The proposal also eliminates subsidized loans, which I don't know that I have an opinion on that. That just seems like they're trying to save money for the government. Just like, hey, you know, you're going to have to charge market rates for these loans. Seems like kind of a good thing, actually. I mean, because otherwise all it is a giveaway to the schools. Like, we know how the schools respond to these policies. They respond by jacking up their tuition and charging people as much as they can.
Yep.
And so if you say, hey, here's a limit, well, then they're going to have to figure it out. And if you say, oh, by the way, you're going to have to charge reasonable rates, or we're just going to let the market decide the interest rates, then people will make better decisions about whether they incur the debt in the first place. Removal of deferment and forbearance options. Under this proposal, apparently, borrowers will lose the ability to have their loan payments paused when they are facing economic hardship, including unemployment.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. They're coming down basically on both sides. They're saying, hey, we're not going to let you take out more loans. And when you do take them out, we're going to more strictly enforce their repayment. I mean, it sounds harsh, but it's also not necessarily unreasonable. That's how loans generally work.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a perfect world, the school themselves would have to make the loan.
Yeah, that would be ideal. So then when your student doesn't pay you back, it's because you failed either to give them a good education or you admitted someone you shouldn't have admitted.
Totally. Right. And it's all unintended consequences, right? People wanted to have more access for poorer, browner people. So they made all these restrictions like, well, there's going to be all these different options. And then also you can't discharge the loans in bankruptcy, right? They did that so that the schools would feel, or so that people who are poorer or browner would feel more comfortable like taking on the debt.
Mm.
But then what that means is that they just can charge whatever they want, have these ridiculous high prices. They don't care whether you're ever going to be like successful.
Yep. That's
They,
the problem.
you're
There's
just going to
no,
be able to come,
yep.
right? It's this like third party thing. But if the school themselves had to give the loan, then that's the equivalent of you get your money back if you don't pass the bar exam,
Yep.
right? Like for law school, why does anyone else loan the money besides the school themselves? Right? Like banks wouldn't make this loan. Banks would be like, no. Or they would charge ridiculously high rates because they see how risky the loan actually is.
It's sad too, because if you actually set it up that way, you know, schools would come up with creative ways for figuring out how to make their program work.
Yeah. I mean, I think the counter argument to that, the obvious counter argument is, oh, well, you're going to end up with only richer, whiter people in law school. Because the schools are going to say, they're going to look at who, they're going to look at LSAT and GPA. They're going to use that as a proxy for who can repay their loan and who can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we need all of these protections in place. It's a tough conundrum, right? I mean, I do think...
but you're not going to eliminate all. You're still going to accept...
Life's not fair. It is going to be very difficult to find something that's going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
I mean, one solution, though, is... Right. And I don't see why. I mean, that's not in this big, beautiful bill.
Beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, at least it's not here.
Yeah.
Charge everybody the same price.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to charge everybody the same price,
what would you do?
Then it at least starts to be a bit more fair.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, it also has changes, limits to future changes on repayment. So they're trying to get these policies through and then lock those laws in for the future.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, whether or not that's enforceable, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's apparently what's going on. This is going to probably be hashed out in Congress and the Senate over infinite time, and then the courts for infinity times 2. Who knows how much of this is actually going to go through?
Yep. All right.
Want to talk to Ricky?
Let's talk to Ricky. Ricky's subject line is huge reading comprehension problem. I'll go ahead and read it. Hi, guys. I'm a huge fan of The Demon. I've been studying with you guys since September. Cold diagnostic of 147 up to a 166 now. However, I'm having a huge problem with reading comp, and I was hoping to get some insight on what to do. Last test, which is pretty indicative of around how I usually perform, here's what I did. Section 1 was logical reasoning. I got 26 out of 26. Section 2 was also logical reasoning. I got 24 out of 25. Section 3, which was reading comprehension, I got 16 out of 27. That's a 75% accuracy. Because I guess I attempted, looks like he attempted 20 questions and got 15 of those correct and randomly bubbled for the last 7 questions. Okay, trust me. I already know that 75% accuracy is a huge problem. What should I do? I've been attending the RC classes and drilling RC. I'm not planning on taking the official test until practice testing in the 170s. I'm just getting anxious because I have been studying for nearly 9 months now, and it feels like my RC hasn't really improved. So I'm doing something wrong. I was originally hoping to take the test in June, but decided not to sign up for it at the deadline because I'm not in the 170s yet. Hoping to get into a T14. I have a 3.95 LSAT GPA at a T15 undergrad university. Okay, thanks.
I don't think this is going to take very long. Ricky, you need to start doing 2 perfect passages and randomly guessing on passage 3 and passage 4. You're already missing a full passage worth of questions on the questions that you're attempting. So, I'm sure Ricky is like, I need to figure out how to get to the 4. I need to do all 4 passages. No, yeah. Ricky, you need to do 1 perfect passage, then 1 more perfect passage. And if you can do that and randomly guess on everything else, you're already going to be scoring higher than you currently are. Then work on a 3rd perfect passage. Mm-hmm. But right now, because you're pursuing this, 170s or bust, you've mm-hmm. got it in your head that you have to do 3 passages at a minimum. You probably think that you have to do all 4 passages. And, in the long run, maybe that's what'll happen, Ricky. But in the short run, you need to dial it back and just stop missing questions. You're not understanding the game that you're supposed to be playing. You're not reading it
Yep.
well enough. You're not understanding what they're asking you. You're misreading the wrong answer that you're picking. You're misreading the right answer that you're not picking. You just don't see how simple it is, Ricky, because you're biting off more than you can chew.
Mm-hmm.
Next one.
Yep. This one's from Alexandria. The subject is Grammarly.
Hey, Nathan and Ben. I've been listening to your very helpful podcast for over a year now, and I really appreciate all the help you offer to students, especially those who have little to no access to guidance and resources regarding law school applications. When you read students' questions or personal statements, you often critique their grammar, sentence structure, etc., and refer them to at least use Grammarly to double check their writing if no better option is available to them. My question is, how accurate is Grammarly? Is it actually helpful to blindly correct the errors that Grammarly finds, even if the student feels that the error is not actually incorrect? I'm hesitant to trust it since AI has been known to make mistakes, like how translating apps make mistakes because they don't understand the way one word can be used differently in certain contexts, which can be grammar related. Are there any better free alternatives to using AI to double check our work? Thanks for your help. You're much more of an expert in this than I am, Ben.
Yeah, so Grammarly makes recommendations all the time. I would say, at least for me and my writing, half of them are not good suggestions. That is going to be wildly different for different writers. If you're a very poor writer, then maybe 95% of Grammarly's recommendations are actually good and you should just accept them. But look, my advice for anyone using Grammarly or any tool that's making writing recommendations is that you should, if you don't know whether it's a good recommendation or not, take the recommendation, put it into Google. Like if it's telling you to change a word to something else, you can always type into Google this word versus another word, and articles will come up and people will explain the difference between the two words, and you can learn, and you should learn. You should become the expert in the room so that when Grammarly makes recommendations, you get the opportunity to judge whether that recommendation is good or bad.
100%. I would say that about half of Grammarly's suggestions for me, I just say, oh, yeah, you're right. You caught me. The other half, I'm like, I don't know. And so sometimes I'll just say, nah, that's definitely wrong. I can tell that it's wrong. Other times I might use that as a place to try to learn more. One thing you didn't say, Ben, is that you could put those suggestions into something like ChatGPT or Claude or whatever else you've got and see what it says about that, right? You can interact with various AIs
and
on the same topic and say, hey, is this right? Grammarly told me this. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
and
see what it says. Yeah, and then if that doesn't make sense to you, keep asking it questions until you get your mind wrapped around it. Yeah.
ChatGPT's like, you should wait till tomorrow to respond to Grammarly about that tip. You need to play it cool. All right. Next item on the agenda is our personal statement Gong show. This is the segment where we read your personal statements and offer feedback. But as soon as we have an issue with it, we ring the gong and we stop reading. Your challenge as a correspondent to the show is to see how long you can get us to read. Ian is our next contestant to beat the record of 10 lines, which is still held by Greta. You want to take off here reading reading Ian's personal statement?
Yeah, let's do it. Ian starts, on paper, my career at PepsiCo was unfolding exactly as planned.
I'm still reading.
Okay. I don't love the fact that, my career. Anyways, that's the subject.
There is never going to be any perfect.
Yeah.
I will say that this is a short sentence. It does set up a bit of like a contrast, like a conflict, a mystery, like on paper. Oh, so you're telling me that there's something different here. Like on paper, it looks perfect, but there's something else going on. I'm curious, and I also like that I've already learned that this is a career person. Like this isn't a K through JD. So that's good.
Yeah. And PepsiCo, we know that company. Yep. Within 2 years, I was running the region's largest district, managing a team of 70 frontline employees twice my age, and leading national trainings for new hires. Okay. Yeah. So you sound successful on paper. But behind the rapid ascent, a quiet question emerged and lingered. Was this the path I truly wanted?
I feel like there's better stories you could tell, Ian. I just what I don't like about it is it's this you're you could have just showed me how much ass you kicked.
Yep.
And you're kind of doing that, which is great. But your main message here is like, oh, it on the surface, on the surface, I look great. But really,
Deep inside.
deep inside, I wasn't happy. Which, oh, what, really? I
There's
want
no
winners.
reason. Yeah, so this is Ian feels like the law schools need to know why Ian left PepsiCo,
Right.
whereas you don't need to address that at all. You could just say, I kicked ass at PepsiCo, and now my next move is to go into law school.
Totally. And it's not
And
even, there's other things here. That's
yeah.
not even the case. There's like, I'm scanning down to the third paragraph after transitioning to Expedia Group.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then why don't you just tell me about how you kicked ass at Pepsi and then you went on and kicked ass at Expedia?
Just make this all intentional and you being a badass.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
I'm not ringing the gong just yet, but it's like this, I will say that this first paragraph, it starts off like kind of good because I've learned a bunch of like, oh, wow, manager, right?
Yeah.
Managing big teams at Pepsi.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
But then why are you going to tell me how unhappy you were about that?
Yeah.
So if my phone rang right now and I had to go off and do other stuff, and if I came back and I got distracted and I'm like, okay, what was that deal with this guy, Ian? I've got this like little inkling of problems.
Yeah. He's just like kind of unhappy.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
You could be like, this should be full of joy. And instead it's like, oh boy, you got to watch out. There's a dark side to my story.
There's nothing wrong with being happy with what you're doing and then deciding you want to do something even better.
Yeah. Second paragraph.
Yep. After nearly 14 months of 90 weeks juggling the complexities of supply chain and staffing during the pandemic.
I feel like I might ring the gong.
Yeah, that was a mouthful. That was just a
Well, also 14 months
of 19 weeks
of 90
weeks. Yeah.
I'm going to do some math here, but there's 52 weeks in a year. That's 12 months. 2 more months should be 10 more weeks. That adds up to 62 by my calculation.
Yep.
But now you're giving me after nearly 14 months of 90 weeks.
You know what I bet Ian meant to write is 90-hour weeks?
Oh, 90-hour weeks.
That's still a big typo.
I'm ringing the gong.
Done. Agreed.
Thank you, Ian. If you would like to participate in our personal statement gong show, you can go to thinkinglsat.com. You can find us on the socials at LSATdemon. We'd love to hear from you. But yeah, I'm sure Ian's a great candidate for law school. I just don't think that is putting his best foot forward. Not even close. I think you should tell a different story that's more happy, and you do have to edit it because that's an error at the top of your second paragraph. That's not lawyer shit. Okay.
Yep.
Word of the week. This comes from Demon team member Abigail, who wants to talk about the word compatible. So this is coming from an actual LSAT question. In the question itself, it says, which one of the following statements about cells is most compatible with the views of 19th century biochemists as those views are described in the passage? What does compatible mean, Ben?
Yeah, so to me, compatible means consistent with, or another, it might even be, I know this sounds funny, but not inconsistent. Which one of the following answers doesn't contradict anything that was said, which allows for some crazy answers? I mean, we don't usually see this, but if the correct answer said that Santa Claus likes chocolate, I could see that working because it doesn't contradict the passage. It's compatible with the passage. It's consistent with the passage.
And this is an area where your common sense understanding of compatibility might not match what the LSAT means when the LSAT talks about compatibility. So Abigail here points out helpfully, Ben, if you want to read this part, what Abigail says here.
Yeah, she says, students often confuse compatible with supported. One student said it's because she only ever heard the word used when talking about devices. If a charging cable is, quote, compatible with a phone, the phone, quote, supports it. I explained that compatible just means not contradictory.
Yeah. So there is a sense of the word that is this charger compatible with my iPhone?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that means that it works, it fits, it does the job.
Mm-hmm.
But on the LSAT, Santa Claus likes chocolate is compatible with my iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what it really means is not contradictory. So Santa Claus liking chocolate, that doesn't contradict my iPhone in any way. I think we should look up the definition. I want to look at this Cambridge definition that we have here. It says, able to exist, live, or work successfully with something or someone else. That's the first definition.
Yeah. The second is able to be used with a particular type of computer, machine, or device, which is the second definition. And you should be able to know all the definitions, or at least the key ones, when you're doing the LSAT.
Yeah. I'm not sure that there even is a definition here that really captures how the LSAT likes to use this term.
I do feel like the first definition fits, though, and maybe I'm just imposing too much here, but I kind of think of it in terms of math, and maybe people will hate this, but when I think of something as compatible, I think of it as the LSAT told me X equals 2. And wrong answers would say something like X equals 3, because you're just like, no, that's not compatible. I know that X is 2. Yeah.
Or 4 minus X is 0. Like those are clear incompatibilities.
Yes.
But to finish Ben's example for him, Y equals 3 is compatible with X equals 2. X can be 2 while Y equals 3. Those two statements are compatible.
They're consistent with each other because the passage, or even despite the fact that the passage said nothing about Y.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to... I think that's probably pretty good for Word of the Week. Thank you, Abigail, for suggesting that. If you want to catch up on all of our words that have been featured on Word of the Week, you can check out our archive. That's at lsat.link/wow. There's like 100 of those segments that you can just link right to. That's an increasingly good way to improve your vocabulary, is to just go through the words of the week, that we have covered in the past.
Yep. Great. Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or on our socials at LSAT Demon. If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, email help@lsatdemon.com. You can also check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. That was episode 510 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing you. Don't pay for law school.